health literacy. And last, we want to learn strategies for community engagement and health literacy. We have some pre-formed questions that I'll ask of our panelists today, and then we'll have time for questions from the audience later in the presentation. So next we have introductions. I think Deborah is going to share about, no, I'm sorry, this is going to be for me. Oh, okay,
no,
go ahead.
I just needed you to take the reins for 1 second while I recorded, and
No
then
problem.
I'll give it right back. It's
Okay.
my pleasure to introduce Chef Alex Askew. At 14, Chef Askew received his first job offer as a personal chef, and at 21 attended the Culinary Institute of America, where he co-founded the first on-campus group for students of color, BCS, and graduated in 1989. In 1993, Alex co-founded the BCA Global, which dedicates itself to education, awareness, and exposure for young minority students seeking careers within the culinary and hospitality industry. The newest core program, Mindful Eating for the Beloved Community, has gathered national attention for bringing food, race, and social justice to the forefront while focusing on training chefs of color as health equity ambassadors to produce health equity and whole communities. Chef Alex, could you introduce our panelists, please?
Sure. And thank you for really putting this together and doing a deeper dive on this program. Just a few shout outs to Lauren and team of Region 2, the whole NIH, NNLM, the University of Virgin Islands, the 4K, Health Ambassadors, Culinary Arts Program at St. Thomas, and School of Agriculture at University of Virgin Islands in St. Croix. And all the chefs and participants that we have put together over the course of this program that was year 1 and year 2. And we have a combination of participants today that were really on the ground and participated and have a really great understanding of what they need to do moving forward to be health ambassadors. So we're missing one person that should be there any second, and her name is Sorty. And then I'm going to have the team. What I want you to do is just say your name and then say one sentence of what defines you as a personal mission statement, or just what you believe. It could be one word. So I just want whoever feels more comfortable to go first. Just your name and then what you feel very, very passionate about. So who wants to go first?
Hi, my name is Joey Swanson, and one thing I'm passionate about is cooking.
Okay. Next.
My name is Demario Obias, and one thing I'm passionate about would be politics.
Okay, and then last.
Did you say you could say a word to describe yourself?
Yeah, you could just be one word or one sentence, but I want people to get a little glimpse of not just your name, but who you are.
My name is Maya, and I would see myself as powerful.
Okay, so there you go. There are our personal mission statements, along with the faces and names, Lauren.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chef Alex, and to our 3 panelists today. So to kind of back up a little bit before we get into this first question, as Chef Alex mentioned, his project was a 2-year funded project with the Region 2 Regional Medical Library. Our headquarters, of course, are in South Carolina at the Medical University, but his project, Mindful Eating for the Beloved Community, ran for the first 2 years of our grant cycle. And we were very interested in investing in the Virgin Islands from Region 2, and also targeting food inequity and health literacy in that area. And we felt like his project really addressed that. So today is an opportunity to learn more from him and also from the panelists about how that program went, because it just ended from 2 years of hard work and dedication from all the participants. Okay, so now to the first question. Why was this program important or valuable to you as a participant?
Maya, I'm going to pick on you first, and then we're going to go left to right since you're the most vocal. Maya, yeah, go ahead.
This program was important to me because it helped me understood where my food came from and how it reached here. And that made me understand why why we should all grow our own produce.
Okay. That's a good answer. Next.
This program was important to me because it taught me more about food insecurity and how we should really be informed about what we're eating and where our food comes from in general.
That's a good answer. All right, try to squeeze in front of the camera because half your face is. Go ahead. There you go.
Get it on the big screen?
There you go. Okay, go ahead.
This program helps me have a healthier relationship with food by cultivating mindful and awareness of my eating habits.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you all for your answers. Chef Alex, do you want to add anything about that? Oh, you have another answer? Sure.
Yes, sure. We have another answer. Go ahead.
Hi, Chef Alex.
Good. So we're on the first. Good. We're on the first question. Why was this program important or valuable to you as a participant?
I would say because I'm in the food industry, and nutrition, food education is really important to me. But it definitely really kind of helped me to see like the wholeness of food. You know, how it's not, food isn't only just nourishment, but how it's also psychological and helps people come together, it brings together families, it brings together communities. So that was something that was really emphasized in the program. So that made me just really enjoy it.
Okay, great. And Lauren, you asked me to chime in. I think on this particular question, when you start looking at the power of food, right? And how food impacts, no matter where you are, it's food, air, and water, which are the essential elements, but food is really like the, it's really the most important thing, not only for nutrition, but also for your body's chemistry, right? It's what you have access to, and being able to understand what choices, even if they're limited choices, what is a better choice, or how you can make better choices instead of, not being aware that you do have choices to make a difference on an individual level, on a family level, and on a community level. And part of this exercise and a lot of the conversations that we had is, how do we spread this information? How do we impact our families? Do we know people that suffer from X, Y, or Z that may be diet related, and really start thinking in a bigger picture standpoint or circumstance of how everything that's happening to me is happening to other people around me as well. And that's my community, and how can I help?
Great, thank you so much. So I think that now that we've heard so many different dimensions about what the program meant to the participants, and also the insight that you just provided, Chef Alex. Before we get into the next question, can you briefly describe what the program was for our folks visiting today in the audience?
Sure, absolutely. So Mindful Eating for the Beloved Community is a program that actually started with a book of essays 6 years ago from everyone that was closely associated with the organization, that were, Black, Brown, Hispanic, Indigenous, to really tell the stories of not only what's broken in the food system, but how we need to address, correcting and rebuilding a food system, especially for the most vulnerable, especially for the people that are food insecure, that don't have access, everything from the lack of farming security that we have, that gives us, farmers markets, that gives us access, and looking at health from a comprehensive perspective. Obviously, mindful eating is really taking that sense of awareness. It was mentioned of where our food comes from, right? How it's grown. One of the things that we talked about, where when you import food and it's coming from somewhere that's 4 or 5 weeks away, by the time you get it, you have to eat it in 24 hours, or it liquefies, it becomes mush. So there's a lot of different issues that once we are aware of, we can only start thinking about how we can impact a better food system, or raise the awareness. And some of the things and some of the ideas that came up were, doing things around neighborhood mindful eating awareness initiatives, and focusing on that beloved community aspect that was referenced by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that we all have something at stake, no matter really what our color is or economic situation is. If we don't come together as a community and help each other, and use food as that very, very important bond to break bread together, and to also discuss what things are healthy, what things are not so healthy, what things we love, but we need to keep them as treats, because we know if we eat them over and over again, it can lead to chronic disease. And having a really safe space for conversation to discuss about the things that bother you with food, or the fact that you have a family member that suffers from the ailments, whether it's cardiovascular or diabetes or what have you. And how can we help them? How can we help change a little bit? And sometimes changing that little bit really means we're adding some years to this loved one's life. And at the end of the day, I mean, I think we all serve, we all kind of see that common ground as a value to community wellness.
Great. Thank you so much, Chef Alex. So for participants, there was education and curriculum. There were opportunities to have, like you said, open conversations about their relationships to food, or what is challenging about food insecurity. And then there were also strategies that were developed around cooking and mindful eating to support all of them in their everyday lives, and to hopefully share that knowledge within the community. So on to question number 2. What were the key learning outcomes for you?
So in this mindful eating program, my key learning outcomes was food insecurity, food security, the wheel, where we learned about the my plate and the grains, the dairies, the fruits, and the vegetables, and also the importance of growing your own food due to different produce coming from different areas of the world, and we don't know what bacteria or pesticides are on it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Come on, Maya. What were the key learning outcomes for you?
For me, it was like, okay, so after the program finished, I realized that throughout my time being in the kitchen, like before I used to be worried about getting all my ingredients together to make sure I could finish the meal and get it prepared. But after working with you guys, I go through working around the kitchen more peacefully because I know that you can easily replace an ingredient and use something else to make it either healthier or more to your liking.
Okay, that's important. Who's next?
I guess I'll lean in. So pretty much for me, some of the key learning outcomes were to basically view food holistically, present in that way. Like, you know, we definitely sometimes we enjoy more holiday foods that, you know, it shouldn't be eaten on an everyday basis. And that those like celebratory foods that can be in like high fat, high sugar, you know, we need to learn how to, like soul food, you know, like we shouldn't eat soul food every single day. Or in the Caribbean, you shouldn't eat macaroni and cheese, provisions, and seasoned rice all on your same plate. Also along with potato salad, you know, so those are some of the things that even though we enjoy those things, we need to know that, you know, we can have those things in moderation, and just looking at wellness as a whole when it comes to eating as a community.
Okay, and who didn't go?
I completely agree with everyone, the panelists here, but for me,
Oh, sorry, we can't quite see you. Can you get on the camera? There we go. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
I agree with everyone that's the connection.
Okay.
Well-being.
Okay. All right, just get in front of the camera a little bit. Just squeeze in. Okay, there you go. Better.
That's too much. For me, it was not to be the connection between my food choices and my overall well-being. As Ms. Saudi said, you're not supposed to eat macaroni and cheese and all these type of other foods on one plate. So for me, it helped me to understand what a limit basically. Yeah.
Okay. There's a little bit of background noise there. Can we, I don't know if we need to unmute someone else or, mute someone. Okay. All right, sorry, Lauren. Just wanted to put some
all good, Chef Alex.
housekeeping.
No problem at all. I should also mention to our audience today that our folks are joining us from the Virgin Islands. Where are y'all exactly on the Virgin Islands?
We're on St. Croix, which is the largest island, and we're doing at the University of the Virgin Islands on St. Croix.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, so, you know, in terms of the technology, we're very grateful that we can have y'all join us even from St. Croix, and that you're able to be here today. But just in case there's any issues with the Wi-Fi, that can be part of it for today, is that we're calling in from different places. So just a heads up to our audience. Chef Alex, did you want to add anything to the learning outcomes that we heard from the panelists?
Yeah, I think that, you know, one of the key takeaways in the learning outcomes is really understanding, and it was mentioned over and over again, is really the food insecurity issues at hand and how they affect your family and your communities. You know, during the process of this training a few months ago, they were, the government was stopping the auxiliary SNAP benefits that were part of the, you know, the COVID constructs. And, you know, that was, you know, in any area in the country, that's a very serious nature, because you're taking basically food that, or at least resources, monies that you could spend on food, and they're not there anymore. What happens then in already food insecure areas, understanding that they, there's nothing they can do, but whatever they, needed to purchase, they had less resources to purchase that. Mentioned growing your own food. It's sometimes it's possible just to have a small garden in your backyard, and being able to, although this sounds pretty basic and simple, but to be able to grow a few vegetables on your own, which is something done in a lot of different areas, even city areas, really does help. Because if you're able to just take a couple of days and be able to supplement some items that you, even if it's a couple of meals each week, that still makes a lot of valuable sense, especially if you're growing the stuff, where it comes from. And what was mentioned before, a lot of the issues with importing food is that they're very high in pesticides and chemicals. I mean, eating something for you that is, has, some general poisonous stuff attached to it, even if you wash it, it's still included inside. That also impacts and also has side effects as well. And then, really being able to, I think one of the top learning outcomes is really being able to have some critical thinking about what we need to do this, what we need to correct this, turn this around, even if it's a little bit by a little bit. A little less harm is better than the harm that you would have to deal with anyway. So how do we start looking at little by little, and again, coming together? And one of the real good things I'm really proud about this group is immediately they started thinking about, how do we impact our lunch programs at school? How do we start integrating with already existing farmers markets to do, whether it's a mindful eating beloved community demo. So these kind of ideas are really, really important. And I would say go beyond impacting from a grassroots level, because once you start to uplift communities like that, it starts to build momentum. And that's why I think it's really important that we had, individuals from all age groups, especially young people, that really represent the future of health ambassadors in our community wellness.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Chef Alex. We are delighted that we can hear from young people in this presentation today, to hear what it was like for all of you. And like you said, that it was intergenerational as well for participants in the program, because a community is made up of people of all ages and all different backgrounds. So it's important to have that representation. Some of the key sort of phrases that I heard, or terms that came up from what folks shared for that last question in terms of learning outcomes, were balance, moderation, remembering that you have options, mindfulness, and even gratitude. That you can have the opportunity to go to your garden, or that you do have, options for what you choose, even on special occasions. And I think maybe the biggest takeaway is empowerment, that people feel empowered. So on to question number 3. How do you feel with what you learned you can influence your community to have better wellness outcomes?
Well, we can share our personal experiences and our success stories with our community. Like this program, we could share with them what we've learned and how they can better help themselves. We can promote mindfulness practices and techniques within our community, such as the mindful cooking and mindful grocery shopping, and even shopping locally.
With what we learned during the mindful eating program, we can take the information and better help our community by even starting a program that can help make our own produce. Like I've always said, it will be better if we always make our produce backyards than having it shipped from other places. So with the information of mindful eating and food insecurity, we could use that to start our own program in our own small community to later share with our whole community and island.
Piggybacking to what Joey said, we can have little workshops and probably on a weekend or a weekday explaining to them certain activities or certain practices that they can start at home, and then they can probably branch out, helping their other family members and so on, creating that type of chain of effect.
Maya?
We could do side projects, yes. We could go out, talk to different youth programs that we have going on. We could talk to them, explain to them like the side effects of not having your own garden, hit it from a different area. Instead of telling them why it should, we should tell them, what are the side effects of not. Try to get them to understand, make up their own mind on their own, like give them a little push. Yeah.
Sorry?
Well, one of the things is like me personally, working with the young people and educating them about some of the chronic diseases that are prevalent in our communities so that they can have that awareness. One of the things we talked about in one of the workshops that we had with the young people, we're asking them if they had any family members who they knew who had like diabetes or high blood pressure, that kind of thing. And by making them aware of their own, situations within their own family, it kind of helped them to see how important it is as a community, as individuals, but how these things are not only when we think about them like, oh, this is something happening in the community, but it's something happening right into your own home. So by educating them about what those things are and relating it back closer to home, it really centered them to really get more involved and to kind of, pull focus and say, hey, this is important. I understand this because I understand it affects my auntie, or I understand it affects my grandma, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you so much for sharing that, because you're right that food can be helpful for prevention. So you can be proactive to try to, stop yourself from having to go through and experience certain health outcomes, but it can also be used to manage what you currently have, like you just said. So if someone's living, unfortunately, with cancer or with diabetes and high blood pressure, the food that they eat can make a big difference in terms of the different effects that it has, how they feel, their ability to do other things that they love to do just by using food. So I think that is an excellent point. Chef Alex, did you want to add anything to what the panelists shared?
Yes, I mean, I think these all really great points. I think at a certain point during that training, it did get kind of personal when you start, when you start to be asked about family members that you know and love, or family people, friends that you know and love, and there's no one that I know of, that anyone I think know of, that doesn't have a family or friend that suffers from ailments of these chronic diseases, some of the top being diabetes and cardiovascular and hypertension, and and being able to approach these individuals who are really hardwired into their customs and beliefs, which is something that was evident in the Virgin Islands. It's a really deep rooted food cultural place-based area that has a long rich history of and I know that next question will get into our experiences working in the kitchen and going back and forth, and well, this is how we do things here, and just really being in a space where we could come up with something that doesn't compromise the integrity of the food cultural heritage, because those memories are so important. they're so important, and especially really, really important to individuals that live in the Caribbean and have a deep, rich food cultural history. We have to be mindful that that existed for, in some cases, hundreds of years. And so we just can't cast it away like it didn't exist. And with insensitivity, we have to have those conversations, which I'm sure the next question will take a deeper dive into. So, but when you start looking at the community as a whole, including those that may be invisible, like the homeless, and which is not something that the Virgin Islands is excused from. Homelessness exists there like it exists everywhere else. How do we look at strategies to uplift that wellness piece of it, even if it's a brick at a time, or small, a small progress at a time. And I think that's we were able to come to some really clear new approaches and strategies as a result of this program and working with the teams there.
Great, thank you. I noticed that too, that there were some comments about trade and the local economy and globalization, and instead focusing on, how to build up the community and provide jobs, and, thinking about leveraging the land that you have and using that instead of maybe having things imported. For a lot of island communities, like importing things is a key part of, how you get access to certain materials, but that doesn't mean that you can't leverage what you have. And I heard our panelists say that. So that's really important to keep in mind. And it can help with some of the disparities in the economy if you're investing in what you have at home. All right, so question number 4. How are the food exercises helpful in learning about mindful eating for the beloved community?
I'm sure we can have a long conversation. This was all our kitchen work. So go ahead, take the gloves off. No.
So during our time in the kitchen with Chef Alex and
Oh, sorry,
Joanna,
can we turn the camera a little bit? Can we see?
Oh, that's him in the middle. Okay.
Yep,
Oh yeah.
I know,
Oh, you want to see? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There we go. There we go.
So with all our time in the kitchen with Chef Alex and Miss Joanne, we learned how to make foods healthier. So what we do is we take our local dishes. For example, one of our local dishes we make is a pate, which has ground beef or saltfish. What we did was that we altered some of the key ingredients and the key methods to make it healthy. So by doing that, what we did was, normally on the island we do fried pate with beef or saltfish. But what we did was we baked it, which can reduce the amount of oil that's in it. We can make it healthier, which can reduce the amount of fat that you're consuming.
And it tasted great, right?
Can you repeat that?
And it tasted great.
Yeah,
And it tasted great.
Yeah.
Okay, Maya.
Well, baking instead of frying, it helped us to make the food healthier, because that was a problem. Eating too much unhealthy food every day. So to be able to eat what you enjoy, you have to make it healthier. So that was our take on that.
Right. And Sorty?
Okay, I would say one of the things that the food exercises were probably the most fun. For one, a lot of the kids were like, they're not gonna like it, it's not gonna be good, and they love the soup because everyone wants the soup recipe. Definitely the pâtés were a hit, because that was another thing where it was like the pâtés are fried, and so just learning different techniques that usually aren't traditional, but also including traditional food. I think that's important. I think when we start thinking about healthy food, or we start different cultural food systems, we're quick to say, oh, these aren't healthy foods, you know, you need to adopt, you know, something different, you know, maybe more American or maybe more European type foods, or what is mainstream, quote unquote, healthy, whereas, you know, there are a lot of like provisions here is actually very healthy. Brown food is very, very healthy. And it's something that for a long time, for many, many years has been part of the food system here. But just learning how to do things differently. And I think in the kitchen, the kids actually learn a lot of different, you know, techniques of cooking and preparing their own cultural food. And when you allow people to use what their own practices and you respect their culture, they're much more open to trying new things, because it's not as if we're taking it away. We're just saying, hey, you could just flex it and do it a different way.
Yes.
Absolutely. You don't want to erase someone's culture. Like you said, maybe just a different approach.
For me, it would have to be Chef Alex's twist on local drink, our sorrel drink. He taught us a more healthier version. A healthier version of making the local drink. The sorrel drink. It was all right, maybe. But I think for me, I'll stick to what I know, my regular sorrel drink. And maybe try Chef Alex on once every 100 years.
Now, is the local drink very sugary? Like, what was the difference in the two?
Extremely sugary.
Very, very sugary.
Very
Yeah.
sugary. Okay.
Right. So I mean, on the beverage note, we you know, we in lieu of the mindful eating beloved community, we created mindful beverages, right? So, you know, how do we take you know, using, instead of sugar, using, you know, natural sugars that come from fruit, and incorporate that, like a we did a mango ginger tea, and then we did like what was it, a sorrel pineapple tea drink, and then we did, you know, in last November we did a fruit water, you know, and I would say initially the first few sips were not so receptive, but then, you know, afterwards it was like, yeah, you know what, I can taste the fruit, you know, maybe you know, all the sugar is really not that necessary all the time. I mean, obviously, you know, you're gonna have sugary things when it's appropriate to have a treat, but do you need that at every meal, right? And you know, St. Croix is home to some of the most fantastic tasting fruits in the world. You know, how do we incorporate those into a beverage where you don't need sugar, right? And you know, is that light and refreshing enough? And so I think we were able to win a win there. That was definitely a win. And then Miss Joanne, who is a master baker, you know, took a very, very high level food cultural item like the fried bread, the beignet bread, right? And we were able to make it into a cookie. And yeah, you know, that's a little dicey, but you know, everyone agreed that the flavor profile was the same. And what we just heard is you don't need all this oil and fat and frying all the time. And that to me is that's a huge win, because in a lot of areas in the Caribbean and in the South, you know, that is the go-to cooking method. But yet there's other options. And then lastly, through making a small community investment, we were able to buy an air fryer. And at the commencement, although I only got one piece of it, I thought there'd be more, but we air fried some okra, and it was all gone. I mean, it was literally I've never seen, so many seconds and thirds, and, making a fresh, the soup that they talk about was an allspice, allspice thyme butternut squash soup. And, we made a huge pot of it and it was gone. Like I literally only had a half a cup of it and went back and it was gone. So, I mean, and then everything that we did, was basically vegetarian. There was only maybe one meat item on it, but we didn't talk about it. But even, even the salad that we were able to put together that had shredded green papaya, it had olives, it had all these beautiful things. And, I met, you know, uh, children of some of the parents that brought them there that never had a salad before, and said this was the best salad experience, and they would continue to eat salads. I hope they're going to be as good as the one we made. But the fact of the matter is to open people up to different options, and to meet people that don't eat vegetable soup, but yet we're able to say, I could eat the soup every day. Those are the kind of changes that are really not only impactful on an individual level, but on a family and community level of, sharing those recipes and sharing that, hey, have you ever tried roasting this instead of frying it? Using the same and being sensitive to the fact that that's not any way anyone's grandmother did it. But we also have to be understanding that a couple of generations ago they burnt 3 times more calories than we did, and we just don't have that in our lifestyle. So we do have to adjust, using cooking methods, which are really smart, using herbs and spices, which are done in the Caribbean, like almost as an automatic, and, being able to incorporate, fruits and vegetables. And when we do eat meat, make sure that it's really good meat. We know where it comes from, but at the end of the day, knowing where all your food comes from, is very, very helpful in how you prepare it. And also understanding that, if it comes from a far place, it probably doesn't have a very high nutritional value, which is something else that was learned in this lesson.
Great. Thank you all for your answers about what you created, the dishes and drinks that you created. This is our last planned question before we open up for questions from the audience. Question 5, how committed are you to sharing what you learned with others in the community?
Our 4-H group is very committed in sharing what we learned. In fact, when there was a group, 5 of us from the group were picked to go to Washington, D.C. for a 4-H conference, and where we used the Chef Alex's and Ms. Joanne's mindful eating concepts that we presented in our action plan, and later which we won and we got a $2,000 grant, which we're using to build box gardens for our communities in need.
Sorry?
Well, I just wanted to big that up a little bit more, that they went to DC, used some concept, talked about some of the things that they learned about food insecurity, and that a lot of the foods that come to the island are imported and that they're not good. And they put in their proposal for the Ignite Summit, and they actually won. They had to write up a proposal, and then they had to do a presentation, a live panel presentation that was via Zoom. And the grant was worth $2,000, and they won. And so we're very proud of them. And moving forward, what they're going to do is, which is part of their project, they're going to build box gardens and communities so that they can show communities how to grow their own food, the importance of growing their own food, and just pretty much spreading the word about wellness and community wellness in their communities. So we're very proud of them. Whoop, whoop.
Maya, did you have anything to add?
No.
Come
But
on,
they're
Maya.
hard. So that number 5 question, they nailed it. They landed and they're on it.
Okay. So we have some time for some questions then, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yes, and congratulations. That's huge. You're definitely bringing that impact to other people. It sounds wonderful as a grant, and it'll be long lasting, you know, the impact of having those gardens.
Yep.
All right, I see one question in the chat. Thank you for this presentation. This has been extremely informative. I agree. I'm wondering if there are any suggestions on ways to help younger generations understand short and long-term benefits of healthy eating and physical activity versus repercussions of lack of these things. So, you know, a lot of times in school for young people, you get punished, right? If that's something that you're not as active in with the way that you eat, or, you know, with how active you are physically. So how do we kind of turn that energy from being negative and making people feel bad if they don't participate in those things towards encouraging them about, like younger folks in school, about the, you know, short and long-term benefits for those activities?
We can do that by just letting them know that you can encourage them to do things without making it look like it's bad. You can make exercises and food programs look more entertaining for kids can be like engaged.
This generation of kids are involved with social media platforms and whatnot, so you can kind of engage in activities on the different social media platforms. Maybe you can turn an exercise into a TikTok dance, because you know everybody, most people, not myself, but most people do TikTok dances. So you could turn an exercise into a TikTok dance and just have that outreach there within the social media platforms.
Maya, what do you think?
Talk about what you guys are thinking teaching the kids.
She should have gotten who did that.
Ooh. Who's teaching?
Type of Monopoly.
You know, they're not really good.
Ooh.
Like you could
How to get a youth engaged?
Yes. And you just think I'm gonna eat.
Well, I basically what everybody trying to say is that everybody looks at everything that's suggested as work and boring. You just have to make it fun and surround them with people their age, and don't take up too much time, because that's really what we complain about.
Right, so it's more powerful if it comes from other young people like yourselves instead of adults all the time. And so all of you really represent that, right, to your community and to other folks who are your age and younger, maybe even slightly older, to make them see that it's coming from people like them. It's very different when it comes from adults that they don't relate to. So, and I hear a lot about making it engaging, making it fun, using social media, using, you know, ways to market it so that it doesn't look like work. Those are all well received and good suggestions. Okay, so one of our audience members, Rachel, would like to unmute and ask you some questions. Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Finsky, and I was a librarian at the University of the Virgin Islands for several years, from like 2007 to 2014. And I've worked with a lot of students at UVI on podcasts dealing with food insecurity. And I wanted to ask if y'all have ever contacted or worked with Shelley Bryn, who's at the Quesarar Farms in St. Thomas, or the Ridge to Reef Farms in St. Croix. And if you have, what experiences you had with them. And if not, would y'all be up to showing, you know, the younger generation how to build a, you know, a little box garden or, you know, garden to have, so that they can see your work and the benefits that you've experienced to that younger generation, because I know that they always look up to a little bit older, not someone like me. So I'm just wondering what your experience is and what you plan to do in the future.
So what we plan to do, answering your first question, we have worked with the Rich to Reach Farm on St. Croix. And what we plan to do is to use them to get our seedlings for our box gardens that we're planning on making in the future. So we would use them as our sponsor to gather not only our resources, but to let them get us information on how to do gardening correctly, well, how much water, how much soil, how much time to take care of it, and just all the information that we need to make sure that the box gardens are taken care of. And we also have our own little inside agent, Miss Vanessa, who works at UVI. She works in the garden industry or the agriculture industry, and she will also be helping us with gathering more information about gardening in a small space.
Well, you're making me hungry for some callaloo.
As you should, because it's delicious.
I know. Very much so. And you know, I was also thinking when you all were talking about the drinks, the coconut waters, there's tons of coconuts, and I don't think people realize the health benefits of coconut water. So for that particular drink, you know, promote that because it is so, so good for you and so plentiful on the island. Thank y'all all. It's a wonderful, you know, project that you're engaging on, and I hope that you continue it and pass it on to your peers and the younger generation.
Yeah. Well, I'll interject. One of the things too that they are doing with underneath the Healthy Habits grant, that is something a little bit separate from what they got with Ignite, is they're going out and they're actually teaching young people about, you know, how, making your drinks healthier, choosing, you know, better fast foods and that sort of thing. So they're actually training for their summer camp, and that's going to be something that they're going to be doing for the summer, is doing youth outreach and teaching young children who are, you know, between 10 and I guess 13, 14 years old, about choosing how to, you know, eat healthier, also physical activity. They're coming up with different games that are going to be, that they think are going to be fun for the kids. So they're actually really, you know, putting that effort in to educate their younger peers.
Great, great.
All right, thank you. We have time for one more question from the audience, and I'm going to turn it to Tawana Hodge, who's actually from the Virgin Islands. So Tawana, up to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tawana Hodge. I'm a graduate from University of Virgin Islands St. Thomas campus. And I'm also a librarian and pursuing my PhD. And I was curious about involving libraries, whether it's like UVI libraries or public libraries or school libraries, as a part of this, particularly the education aspect of it, because I think that sometimes libraries are underutilized as partners. And this really connects to like the health information literacy aspect. So just curious if you thought about additional partners such as like libraries in regards to this project.
So the short answer is yes. And I think we might have had a brief conversation, Lauren. But I think that since libraries are already beacons within a lot of different communities, I think it'd be, and I think I had this conversation with Monique as well. It's a matter of finding the libraries that would, number one, be interested in this type of programming. Number two, being able to find some allocated resources to develop pilots within libraries. And then I think the number three thing is to really sit back and look at the fruits of your labor, because I think the momentum amongst building something where I this is off the top of my head, but I think there's something like 240,000 libraries within the US continental states. This to me would be a really great way to have community impact and really stretch the dollar and then combine it with food literacy, obviously perfect frame. So, I'd be very open to see if, especially for 2024, we could have a couple of pilot library sites. But I think the opportunities to bring in neighboring libraries to show and tell, kind of train the trainer model of, libraries training other libraries in food literacy and community wellness is a home run at least.
Great. So that's all the time that we have for questions. Tawana, thank you so much for sharing that with us. As Tawana said, she's pursuing her library and information science PhD. So shout out to Tawana and thank you for that question. I'm going to turn it back to Deborah to close us out. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you so much to Chef Alex and to all of our panelists today. You did a wonderful job talking about the program and sharing with us. And we're so grateful that you took that time to be with us today. So I'll turn it to Deborah.
I second that. This was a really beautiful experience, and I'm so grateful for all of your time. If you would like to reach out to us, know that you can connect on all our socials, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at NNLM Region 2. And then our email is region2@nnlm.gov. The big question is always, how do I get CE credit? Within a week, you'll receive an email with a link to the recording, a link to the survey, and instructions on how to use that survey in order to obtain your CE credit. We look forward to seeing you guys again soon, and thank you for participating. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel, or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.